Back to another episode of the Racing Life Podcast. I'm Casey Campbell. Thank you so much for joining us. We're pleased to be joined by Quin Houff, the driver of the number 00 Chevrolet for Starcom Racing in the NASCAR Cup Series. Hi, Quin.
How's it going, man?
It's going. So, kind of going into how this kind of racing thing started. Growing up in Virginia and all that. How did it start for you?
Yeah, it started different than a lot of guys you hear nowadays. My family had no racing connection or background at all. It was a bug I got all on my own, and I just grew up playing, little league sports like any other kid. And I always went to the batting bullpens, and they always had, putt and go-karts out back. And I took a liking to going out on the go-kart track and racing friends and my father. And one day saw a picture in the ticket room of a kid that raced go-karts competitively, and bugged my dad for 2 years that I wanted to do that for real. And he finally caved in, and we got connected with our local go-kart community at Eastside Speedway, and just started racing together as a hobby around the age of 8, I believe.
Yeah. So kind of going after that, where did you go next after really racing in go-karts to kind of start off?
Yeah, I raced in go-karts for a year and had a lot of success, local and a little bit of a travel. But then I moved into mini cup cars, which were rigid mini cup cars. So basically it was like a quarter scale looking go-kart / stock car combined. Yeah. And we raced at Shenandoah Speedway, which isn't too far from where I grew up either. And that series traveled around to places like Motor Mile Speedway and Orange County Speedway and different places like that. And I raced there for about 2 years and had success. And that's kind of when I looked at my dad and said that, I wanted to do this as a career and try to go into NASCAR. And that's when he kind of looked at me and was like, well, we didn't really know what we were doing go-kart and mini cup racing, so we're going to have to find some help. And luckily we've met a lot of great people along the way and got into driver development programs and a late model stock car of a team out of Richmond, Virginia called FDJ. And I was racing full-size stock cars by the age of 14. So that was kind of the next step. And then I went into supers around 17, 18 and got the opportunity to run an ARCA race at Daytona at 18. And that's kind of where I feel like things started to take off as far as the national level goes. So pretty unique way to go up from short track racing straight to Daytona, but was fortunate enough to be able to run up front there for a while and do well and get me more opportunities into the Xfinity level.
Okay, so you kind of mentioned a lot there. I kind of want to go back a little bit, but when you raced late models, who did you race for, and how long did you do that for?
So when I started racing late models, it was for Frank Denny Jr. Motorsports. At the time, the NASCAR sanctioned late model series, you had to be 15. So for a season, I ran at Orange County Speedway in what was called Select Late Model, which they kind of combined their limited and late model series together. And there in Ace Speedway is where I ran when I was 14. And then when I turned 15, we started running with them at South Boston Speedway, Motor Mile Speedway a lot. And then I actually moved to a different late model team with Chris Harefield, just a one-car team with him, and built a great relationship with him. And then that led to a super opportunity and a driver development program opened up there at the time, which was called LFR Chassis, which is now Fury. But I started racing with them at 18 and split time with them and the late model stocks that 1 year. And took a lot more of a liking to the super late models. I enjoyed the lighter car with more power. And I ran the inaugural season and the second season, I believe, of the Cars Tour series and had some success there as well. And then, like I said, after that is when at 18, I got an opportunity with Mason Mitchell Motorsports to run at Daytona.
Okay, so going back to that, going back to when you first in ARCA, that was 2018, if I'm right.
When I ran what?
ARCA.
ARCA?
To run. Was that in 2018?
I was 18 years old, so that wouldn't have been, I don't think that would have been 2018.
Okay.
I think that was right around 2015, 16.
Okay. All right. So kind of going that, when you got the call from Mason to run at 18, were you like, am I ready for this?
Yeah, when I was definitely, like I said, it was a kind of an intimidating jump to go from short track racing and late models to running a super speedway, but it was always a dream, right? As a race car driver, it's a dream to run at big tracks like that. And it's not an opportunity you turn down at all. And like I said, fortunately enough, they're a great organization, and we went there and ran well, and was able to run up front and make more connections with the people in the industry at that level. And that was what really led me into going to be able to debut an Xfinity at Bristol the next season with Precision Performance Motorsports in the 46 car.
Yeah. So making that Xfinity Series debut, what were the nerves like for you?
It was pretty high. I had a lot of people tell me that I was crazy for debuting in Xfinity with as little experiences I had, especially and being with a team that was a part-time team. It was a challenge, but I remember being confident and going out there and trusting my guys and the equipment myself, and taking what I learned from short track racing growing up and applying it there. And I remember the last restart, I was actually inside the top 10 lining up with, junior motorsports cars and RCR cars. And I was like, one of those awe moments where it's like, I don't know if I'm supposed to be here. It's one of those moments like, I can't believe I'm here, but I was fortunate enough to be able to score a top 15 in our debut at Bristol and survive all the madness.
Now to clarify, what year was that?
Let's see, that would have been a year later. So we're looking at about 2016, 2017.
Yeah. And so really after that, I know you kind of ran you ran some more ARCA races for Mason. I think you ran some you ran some Xfinity races, I think, with JD, I think.
Yeah. So after that and being able to get to that level, my next kind of goal was to work with NASCAR. They have a licensing process, and I worked hand in hand with and communicate with them to let me know what I needed to do and accomplish. So that started out with running some more ARCA races at bigger tracks. So we ran some more with Mason Mitchell at Michigan, Charlotte, Pocono, a couple other places. And then getting an opportunity with Johnny Davis Motorsports when Ross stepped out of the car to run the 42 Ganassi Xfinity car at the time. I was able to step in and build a relationship with them at Richmond for that race, which led to more opportunities and the number 15 car later on. And those races were picked just to try to help me as a driver get approved license-wise fully for Xfinity. And then once I accomplished that, I moved my sights to seeing how I could get approved to run the Cup level. And that's kind of the path we took. It's not one that a lot of drivers kind of take, but with the sponsorship we had, I was trying to maximize each and every opportunity to try to propel myself and get myself on what the ultimate stage of all drivers want to be on, which is the NASCAR Cup Series. And luckily we were able to accomplish that in about 2 seasons, and able to get the opportunity to run with Premium Motorsports and debut in the Cup Series at Phoenix in 2019.
Yeah. So when you did all that, when you first said we want to go to Cup, did you feel like you were ready for Cup?
I don't know if you ever think you can feel like you're ready for the pro series level or the pro level of any sport, right? But like I said, with every opportunity that you get as a driver, you want to be behind the wheel of something. So if you get an opportunity to run something higher than where you're at, it's hard to turn those opportunities down. And I've always believed in what I can accomplish, and I'm very realistic about with my experience or what equipment or what team I'm in, about going out there and what we need to do to execute and perform the way we should. And that's just kind of how I had to grind through the levels of racing, and being able to do that with Premium was the same thing. Being able to go out at Phoenix and feel like you got there quick, but you feel like you're ready enough. And we were able to go out there and get a top 30 with our debut, which is pretty good for where they're normally running. So it was definitely something I felt like that was a good move.
When you got so kind of go back, talk about when you got the call, because I think after that season you got the call from Starcom.
Yes.
So kind of talk about how that all got put together.
Yeah. So like I said, at each level of my career, when you move yourself into the next series, you're around different people. You're in the garage with a lot of different people that have many different roles in each division, and being able to be there and do that was the reason that you get the call. And being able to have, I think I ran 15 to 17 races that season with Premium and the Spire car. That led me to be able to be around the Starcom guys, and when the off season came around, they gave me the call to see if we could put a program together to run full time, which my goal in 2019 was to get myself approved license wise to perceive myself as a full time eligible Cup driver, and we accomplished that thankfully. And because of that, we were able to put a deal together to go run full time with Starcom Racing in 2020.
Does someone have to, the year that you had, last year was kind of like, the year that kind of everybody had with COVID, because you're going to a lot of these tracks. And I know you've been at a lot of them, and I know you've raced at a lot of them. But this time you're going with no practice, no qualifying. I think I remember I talked to you before Darlington, I think about in 2020, and you hadn't had experience at that race, and you were going to go in there. It's like, oh, geez, here we go. What was that season like? What did it teach you as a driver?
Yeah, I mean, it was a very tough time for everybody, not just the sports world, but I was thankful enough just to be able to go and be able to run the full-time season. And hats off to NASCAR for making that happen and finishing all of our events and being done on time. But that was very tough. It was very tough, not only just because of my experience, but also just on small teams. You lose that track time to set up your cars, and obviously we might not have as much engineering or technology to set our cars up. We need that practice time. And aside from that, I hadn't been to a lot of those tracks, and having to go there and learn under green flag conditions was definitely tough as a rookie for your rookie season. But we had to make sure our goals were realistic and put a lot of trust in each other. And I put in a lot of work off track, just with studying film and studying data, and being able to work on my SimSeat simulator a lot, just to be visually comfortable with these places. I think that helped tremendously.
Okay, so I don't know if a lot of people know this or that way, but kind of explain, what was it like at the track? Like how did you get there? What did you have to do, and everything that you had to put up with last year of getting there? Because I think a lot of people really don't know what it was like to go there. Yes, you can say, oh, racing with no fans and stuff and all that, but there's all the other stuff like inside the garage area. Like there was like a big process to get in and all that stuff. And what was that all like?
Yeah, NASCAR put in, a very strict procedure to be able to continue to race and keep everyone safe and healthy was the number one priority. So obviously we had the mask mandate. We went to 1-day shows. We didn't have any practice. We had forms to fill out each and every week, just to be sure that everybody was healthy enough to come and not have any virus spread. But then we had a station that we came to when we came into the track, and we did temperature checks and all of that. And then they kept the drivers pretty much in quarantine before the races, wherever that may be, if it was in an RV or whatever, just try to keep everybody in their own bubble. And it was kind of weird because you really just showed up right before the race and sat alone, and then you went and hopped in the race car and drove 400, 500, 600 miles, and then you hopped out of the race car and you left. And it was kind of eerie in a way, just not having any fans and not having any of that noise or that vibe around the track. But it kind of felt like you're almost out there to practice. But once you strapped in the car, I felt like the racing product was equal to whatever we've always done, which was nice to see, and was able to continue our season on.
Yeah. So after all that, I know, 2021, that kind of continued, and, kind of starting like that with this year. I know this is your second year with Starcom. How is the season kind of going from, does it feel like when you go to the track, does it feel like more, okay, now that the fans are back and all that stuff? I know with all the changes that were announced yesterday, does it still feel like, fans are back and all that? Does it feel, normal yet, even though, NASCAR announced a bunch of changes yesterday?
Yeah, leading up to this break, it started to feel quite a bit more normal, which normal was still new to me because I hadn't raced in the Cup Series with full capacity fans and things like that. So it was still something new to me, but it was definitely nice to see all these fans starting to show back up at the track and start to feel that energy that they put into the sport. But it was the same goal when she strapped into the car, right? And this year I felt a lot more confident heading into it, being able to study data and things that, you know, I actually did instead of looking at what someone else actually did and trying to figure out how they did it. So I feel like that's been good for me. I feel like the season we've had has not been exactly what we wanted to do. I felt like we should be improving more than we have, but there's, you know, a lot of different components that go into that. We're working each and every week to try to put it all back together. But, you know, this was a nice reset for us. You know, it's a small team. We're still struggling with practice time, obviously only having it at certain tracks that we haven't been to before. So we got big challenges facing us coming up this week and next week with not having practice at Watkins Glen this week, and that's a place I haven't been yet. And then heading into a new track for the series at Indy Road Course the following week, which we'll have practice at, thankfully. But you know, 1 50-minute session kind of goes by in the blink of an eye when you're trying to figure everything out from the driver's seat to the crew perspective. But it's definitely still kind of a challenge this year, and obviously, like you said, there's still things that are evolving and changing to be sure that we can continue through the season. But we're pretty used to rolling with the punches at this point.
Right. Okay, so coming off that, going into what your future is going to be like, what is it going to be like? Can you really go into it? I mean, I know, are you under contract or anything like that? Or do you know what you're doing next year?
Are you still there?
Yeah, I'm still here. So do you know what you're kind of doing with next year and all that? Nope. We
Still
got you.
got me.
Yeah, I got you. We got you. So do you know what your plan is for next year and all that? Yep. Okay. Sorry about that. We're going through some technical difficulties there. You're on mute, bud. You're on mute.
Yeah, these Zoom interviews can be quite the difficulty sometimes.
Yeah. Okay. All right. We're back and stuff. So as I was saying, do you know what your plan is for next year and what that all entails?
No, I really don't know. You know, as we talked about my career, there was a lot of unknowns all the time, and I've had to learn how to just race it race by race and look at the opportunity that's in front of you each and every week and every opportunity that you get behind a wheel. So, you know, even though that I was full time these past 2 seasons, that's still how I approached it. And we still got half the season left here that I got to focus on and hopefully to go out there and perform to the level or above of what I expect to perform. And I think if I do that, I think the next following season will take care of itself.
Do you have you had started to have those discussions with Starcom, or are you looking at any other opportunities that are elsewhere with anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, it's silly season's definitely in full force. I think we see that each and every week. But at our level, you know, things are harder to talk about into the next season with all the things that we face budget-wise that some bigger teams might not face. So our things move a little bit slower, and there's a lot more things that got to be put in line to make programs be able to happen. So, like I said, number one, you know, I think performance these next 14, 15 weeks is the priority, and then hopefully we can put some money together and sponsorship together to be able to continue to race.
All right. Well, Quin Houff, thanks for sharing your racing story, and thanks for hanging in there with all the technical difficulties and stuff. But good luck this weekend at Watkins Glen.
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate it.